Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with a review of the Xiaomi Redmi 9C NFC. Probably the most affordable phone I've ever reviewed at about $80. So it has 2 gigs of RAM, a dual back camera and also a MediaTek Helio processor inside. It's a budget phone which is actually not that bad. Now design wise it's obviously made of polycarbonate and the backside makes it look like it's got a special texture that imitates carbon fiber. So this is actually polycarbonate, and to be honest it's quite grippy. So when it comes to grip and ergonomics it's quite fine. You can even use it with a single hand. I didn't have any problems with that aspect. The side buttons are also rather comfy, and if you want measurements it's 9mm thick and it weighs 196 grams. I would say it's decently well built, so that's about it. Now on the screen front, what you're seeing here is an IPS LCD with an HD plus resolution and a diagonal of 6.53 inches. We also have a teardrop notch, and let's check out a video to put the screen to the test. Okay, so first things first, indoors the brightness may seem okay, the colors are pretty realistically calibrated, and the view angles are, I would say, decently wide. Not the widest in the world, but decent for this price tag. Now outdoors is definitely a no-go because it cannot face the sun and the contrast is very, very modest. Once again, the colors and the indoor brightness are okay. This is probably its strong suit. And going further, we did a brightness test here. And before we talk about that, I should probably also mention that the pixel arrangement here is of the RGB stripes variety. Okay, so we go to the testing area and we got a result which is pretty modest, 264 lux units. In general, we approve of phones having 400 lux. This is actually, as you can see, below the 300 placed phone we've ever tested. It only beats the likes of Nokia One and several cheaper phones. So could be better, of course, but for this price tag, there have got to be some sacrifices. Now going further, inside the phone, we find the following CPU. It's the MediaTek Helio G35. It's a 12nm CPU with an octa-core setup, and aside from that, it's accompanied by only 2 gigs of RAM. I don't remember the last time I tested a 2 gig RAM phone, and also 32 gigabytes of storage. So there's that. There's also a microSD card slot, and the storage is of the eMMC variety. I'm not gonna lie, the phone does suffer from lag, but it appears more often when you're actually doing intensive things on it. So if you have multiple apps open and if you just booted up the phone, you may encounter lag, but after 20 minutes of using it, it should all come into place, especially when you're using cleaners. Of course, there's no trace here of hardcore gaming. You're just going to play Candy Crush and basic games. This is not a phone for gamers. We also did some benchmarks, of course rather irrelevant because the results are pretty low. We just beat the Cat S42 in several tests, and in general pretty underwhelming. Here we beat the Motorola One and Zenfone 4 Selfie Pro. We're definitely not beating the heavy hitters, maybe competing with the likes of Huawei Mate 20 Lite. At least there's good news as far as the temperature is concerned. In benchmarks 33.2 degrees Celsius and in games 35.3 degrees Celsius, so there's definitely no overheating on this handset. Okay, now that we're done with that aspect, let's talk a bit about the battery. That one sounded generous from the get-go. When I heard it's a 5000 mAh unit, and it actually delivered in our video playback test 15 hours and 35 minutes. This means it's superior to the Galaxy A51, A40 and the TCL Plex, but it's inferior to some cheaper phones. I actually tried to look up phones that are cheaper than this one. Had a hard time finding them. Anyway, it's inferior to the Xiaomi Mi A3 and the Bluebo S3 and the Huawei Y6P. So those are only some examples of cheaper phones. When it comes to continuous usage, here we are with PC Mark. Once again, a good result of 10 hours and 58 minutes. It's actually quite solid, above the Galaxy A40 and the Motorola One Action, as well as the Xiaomi Mi A1. At the same time, below the Oppo A72 and the Bluebo S3, as well as the Xiaomi Mi A2 Lite. Charging is on the long side, 2 hours and 46 minutes, which is a lot, but we're tolerating it for the low price tag. We've gotten to the acoustics. First of all, we have an audio jack here, and second of all, we got the speaker here. It's a singular one, and well, that's that. Now I think it's time to listen to some tunes. We're going to look some copyright free music here. Okay, definitely a loud experience, pretty good high notes, but the bass is lacking, and when it comes to the maximum volume, you may encounter some distortion at the top volume. Don't believe me, believe our tests. We did some decibel meter testing, and let's see what came out of that. Okay, so we go here, and volume power. So 85.5 decibels is what we achieved first. As you can see, we're beating the Huawei Nova, the older model, and let's see what else we're delivering here. Okay, so with 85.5 decibels, here we go. We're just above the Motorola E4 and also the Galaxy A80, Oppo A72, and as well as the Galaxy A20e, which is probably one of its biggest rivals because they have a similar price tag. So we're above those, but we're also below the Redmi Note 7, also affordable, below the Bluetooth S8, Xiaomi Mi A1, and the Xperia X1 Ultra, as well as the Galaxy A41. I'm trying to only mention cheaper phones, but it's hard. I've never tested such an affordable device. Actually, the acoustics when gaming are far superior, 103.6 decibels. It's actually top 15, it's pretty impressive, and almost equal with the Oppo A72. I would say it beats the Galaxy S20 series if that matters. More relevant is that it beats the Galaxy A31, Nokia 6.1, and also something like the Motorola One Macro and Nokia 7.2. So pretty loud acoustics, is that what we're going for, but not much bass. Okay, so here we are in the camera department, and things are kept pretty simple. In this teardrop notch you see at the top side, we have a 5 megapixel camera here, and at the back side it may appear we have a triple camera. It's actually a dual camera with a 13 megapixel main sensor accompanied by a 2 megapixel bokeh, and the third one is actually the face detection autofocus helper. There's also the LED flash and full HD video capture here. Functionality includes an AI mode and a Pro mode, and let's keep straight to the gallery. We kept our expectations to an all-time low on account of the $80 price tag, and still we're actually pretty surprised. Okay, so this is the album. I actually have, one would say, too many photos, but let's have a look at them. I think we should probably start with the selfies because they're the most underwhelming part. They're actually a bit too white and washed out for my taste. Okay, so here we are with the selfies taken with this handset. I feel they're a bit too white and too washed out to deliver a proper quality, but I like the way the face is cut from the background in the bokeh shots, so the bokeh is pretty accurate in those selfies. The resolution is pretty low at 5 megapixels, but well, I would say you're getting a pretty good idea of your facial expression in these. Once again, a bit too white for my taste. To be honest, otherwise, the back camera is not that bad. I actually attempted some macros, believing we have a macro camera. We actually don't, but we did deliver some pretty interesting close-ups. Okay, I think I'm going to skip a big bag here. Here we go, and I actually photographed quite a few flowers, and I'm happy with the color calibration. I was actually surprised. Some phones would overexpose these images, some would underexpose. This one kept colors realistic. Even the sky is okay, and the level of detail is actually very solid for 13 megapixel camera. Of course, you won't get as close as regular macro cameras do, but as far as close-ups without a macro camera, I'm happy with the results. More selfies here. I know they look okay on this small screen, but on a bigger screen you'll see some noise and a very intense contrast, which makes my face look a bit too white. And more shots here. Believe it or not, even the landscape images were quite fine, and this is one example where the HDR was put to the test. So a regular shot felt a bit dark for me, an HDR shot which totally brights up the yellow leaves of the tree. Okay, so focus, colors and details are quite fine here, and I promised you landscape shots. Here we go. Of course, in the distance, if you really zoom onto the trees, you cannot see the leaves properly. It's just 13 megapixels, but not bad. Way above my expectations. Definitely better than the, I would say, Galaxy A20e, maybe on par with the Redmi Note 8T, and can definitely fight a cheaper phone from the Huawei Y series or even beat it. So these have been daytime shots. We have a lot more pictures that we're going to post in the full text review. And now let me go to the low light shots where another surprise happened. Expectations were zero, and I was instantly reminded about the Galaxy A50 from last year, which produced purple, pink or orange shots. This one keeps it real. I'm talking about the yellow lighting being left yellow. The streetlight halos are a bit big, at least in the initial shots, then they have a pretty regular size, as we can see here. There aren't any weird halos, they're just the light sources and their edges. That's about it. I know we don't capture a lot of light, but actually these shots have a pretty nice lighting, so the f1.8 aperture is doing the job. This is honestly a huge surprise. These are actually not bad low light photos for an $80 phone. They even beat the Galaxy A50 in colors. Now we are done with the photos, and I think it's time to talk about the videos. For that I'm going to use my trusty MX Player app. I actually shot a lot of videos, I don't know why. I was curious to see if the videos deliver as well as the photos did, and sadly they do not. Of course, they're well within the limits. There's a pretty nice exposure change here. Everything feels a bit washed out, murky, watery. And since it's just Full HD, you can clearly see that some details are lacking. The bitrate isn't very high, and there's a bit of overexposure in the area where the sun meets the trees. Okay, let's go to a better lit video maybe. Find something with more life to it. This one here, for example. So, more colors here. I would say that I'm happy with the calibration of the reds and the blues, which is something I also noticed in the photo department. But when it comes to vegetation, it's definitely overexposed by the sun. Shockingly, the zoom was quite satisfying. And if you look at these videos on YouTube, you'll notice there's quite a bit of shakiness. And of course, I did a stabilization test and things are truly shaky. Electronic focusing, electronic stabilization, not that good. And optical, of course, we can't afford it at this price tag. Okay, and we also tried out the focus speed. I would say it's okay. Definitely not a Samsung, but pretty okay. This is actually the keyword for the entire photo experience. Above expectations in photo, just okay in video, and believe it or not, in nighttime filming, I actually expected more flicker, but it's pretty decent in the end. So we're done with the camera experience. I think it's time to talk about the connectivity. And it goes without saying that this is a dual SIM phone with 4G LTE. We only have Wi-Fi BGN, so keep that in mind. And I should probably mention that we're also getting NFC, it's in the name. And there's a micro USB 2.0 port at the bottom. I haven't seen that in a while. There's Bluetooth 5.0, GPS, GLONASS and Beidou, as well as an ability to deliver loud calls. So there's that. Now, let's see how we did when it comes to the speed test. We also did that, 4G and Wi-Fi, and these are the results. Keep in mind they're rather modest, at least on the Wi-Fi department, because of the lack of a proper fast band. 28.1 megapsecond downloads on Wi-Fi, 22.8 megapsecond uploads, that's it. On 4G we actually did a bit better, 92.1 megapsecond downloads, 46.6 megapsecond uploads. I would say we are doing fine. Now on the software front, you've probably seen this before. It's Android 10 with MIUI 12 on top, and it runs quite okay unless you want a more intensive live wallpaper, which I actually don't recommend on just 2 gigs of RAM. Now multitasking goes like this. We have 2 columns, and if you want to close up an app, you just swipe it to the side. Of course, there's also the option of split screen here and also floating windows. And a novelty here is the control center, which is borrowed from iOS, which you can see here. It's a bunch of toggles, basically the quick settings from Android. You can also opt for the regular quick settings. And here we have the notifications. They've been split from the quick settings, once again inspired by iOS. If you keep press the home screen, you should get options related to widgets, wallpapers and settings. The widgets are these white and transparent ones, which we've seen before on MIUI. And well, that's about it. Don't think I forgot anything. Oh, the fingerprint scanner is placed at the back side here. And let's see how well it works. It seems pretty fast and snappy, although it's a bit hit and miss sometimes. It all depends on your luck and proper placement on this very flat sensor. I would say, once again, for the price, it does what it's supposed to do. Okay, so if you really want to get into it, as you can see here, we have an app drawer, which is something we didn't have for a long while on MIUI. And here we have quite a few settings for connectivity, lock screen, display, sound and vibration, wallpapers, themes, privacy protection. MIUI 12 puts a lot of emphasis on this privacy protection and permissions. Extra permissions are required. We have digital well-being and parental control and a few other useful options. Okay, so the leftmost home screen is dedicated to being an aggregator of shortcuts, recommended apps, advanced tools, popular games. You can take notes, see popular videos, and also see the stocks. There's also a dedicated section for the gaming. So there's that. We've covered everything there is to say. Now it's time for the verdict. Okay, so this is definitely an affordable phone. The most affordable phone I have ever tested, and I've tested hundreds of handsets. It impressed me in quite a few areas. Now on the pro side, the camera is definitely good, both the back one and the front one, even though the front one didn't blow me away with its selfies, but it's decent in clarity. So good camera. Pretty nice battery when it comes to continuous usage and video playback. The design is actually okay. It's made of plastic but pretty solidly built and comfy. We got a loudspeaker at the bottom for sure. The price tag is definitely appealing. MIUI 12 works fine on this setup even with a lower quantity of RAM. And also we have those extra gimmicks which many companies have given up on, like the audio jack and micro SD card slot. Those are the pros. Now on the cons side, there's the long charging, there is the low brightness of the screen for sure, there's the shaky videos, there's the lag, which appears every once in a while, and also I would say that the selfies overall, especially the color, is a bit washed out. And the Wi-Fi speed may also deserve a mention. In the end, you're going to get this phone as a bundle. I know a few countries which are offering this phone for free as a gift when you're getting the Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro. So there's that aspect. This phone is for free in quite a few areas. Now, if you're not getting it for free, you're getting it for $80, which is very low, and you're getting your money's worth, actually more than that. It's good for a grandpa or grandma, so they can communicate with your grandkids via Facebook, WhatsApp, and other things. They can watch YouTube, they can play some Candy Crush, just basic tasks, but they also get an extra bonus of a solid battery and a surprisingly solid camera. That's about it. That's my impression for the Redmi 9C NFC. Pleasant surprise below $100. This is from gsnon.com. Bye bye.